Ever since Jurassic Park, we've dreamed of recreating dinosaurs. They ruled the Earth for over 100 million years. Who wouldn't want to see them up close? But the science behind this fantasy seemed impossible, until now. Today, new science is blending paleontology and genetics. A new breed of dino hunter is using remarkable genetic advances to explore the DNA of dinosaurs' descendants, the birds. Their expeditions into DNA are discovering ancient traits that once belonged to dinosaurs.
I think that all birds are able to grow teeth.
We're getting these dinosaurian-like tails starting to develop inside a modern bird.
Not just teeth and tails, but even scales and hands. They're reviving the possibility of creating a living, breathing dinosaur, but in a different way than you ever imagined.
We're getting closer. The technology is racing.
I don't think there are really any barriers other than philosophical.
Will science ever be able to bring back dinosaurs? Recreating dinosaurs might not be a smart idea, but in the future, will it ever be possible? To carry it out, we would need a source of dinosaur DNA. Surprisingly, today there are hints that we may be able to find it. The first attempt begins in 1992, when Raul Cano and his former student Hendrik Poinar conceive a strange experiment. They'll try to recover DNA from an insect almost as old as the dinosaurs. It's trapped in amber, a sticky tree sap that hardened into a transparent stone. Speculation about the possibility had inspired the Jurassic Park story. Cano decides to actually try it.
This is a bee, a stingless bee, probably 25, 30 million years old. This is a fly. You can see the tissue is very well preserved. Pictures like this created the possibility of having Jurassic Park because it's possible that some of these organisms may have taken a blood meal from a dinosaur and preserved the DNA of the dinosaur.
The idea seems clever, but impossible, until Cano decides to search for ancient DNA with a new technique that can detect the tiniest DNA fragments. They begin by sterilizing the amber. Then they add freezing liquid nitrogen.
Well, now the liquid nitrogen is boiling over, and the amber is going to get real cold and it's going to crack. And finally, you'll be able to have access to the interior, and then you can collect the samples.
Next, Cano grinds up the tissue and adds chemicals that make millions of copies of the tiniest DNA fragments, allowing them to be detected on a gel. After many trials, amazingly, they succeed in detecting a small sequence of DNA from a 40-million-year-old bee. Suddenly, the impossible seems possible. Although the chances are slim and the fragments would be small, it appears that we may actually be able to find dinosaur DNA.
At the time, it felt really good because, you're sort of enjoying the fact that you did something that has not been done before. We were on a high for a long time.
But then, the bottom falls out. Over the next few years, all attempts to replicate the experiments fail, and the extreme sensitivity of the DNA test leads to suspicion that the recovered tiny fragments were contaminants.
One has to be extremely careful to make sure that you do not introduce DNA into the sample from the air or from your lips or from your hair or your clothing. You're always running the risk of amplifying the wrong thing.
Scientists have now abandoned the search for DNA preserved in amber. But since then, researchers have recovered longer stretches of ancient DNA from a 40,000-year-old mammoth and 45,000-year-old Neanderthal bones. So why not from dinosaurs?